Now welcome to another edition of News from Naboo with Thor's Lightning Takes. And let's get right to the news.
Alright, we're going to start out by talking about the streaming numbers. Bum bum bum.
Bum 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 indeed.
Because we did follow how last week we got information from Samba about the week 1 of Ahsoka, and it was top of the streaming charts, beat everything out. I got that up there again, everyone, so you can see. Hooray for Ahsoka. That was the week episodes 1 and 2 premiered. The numbers just dropped for week number 2.
Which is episode 3.
Yes. And Ahsoka has dropped down to number 3. Being beat out by, who is Aaron Carter, season 1?
Who is Aaron Carter?
I don't know. We're not watching that. And you are so not invited to my bat mitzvah.
I feel like I should have beat them both out. I don't know what either one of those are.
No. But I guess sometimes interest peters it off a little after the first couple episodes. I imagine that this next episode, when it shows up on the streaming charts, I imagine it's going to go back to the number 1 position.
Back to number 1?
I think number 5 could hold to the top position as well, based on the hype that already exists around it.
There is a lot of hype going into this
It's
episode.
going to the movie theaters, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, for a few people. Those who could get tickets and live in a big city somewhere.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised that One Piece is number 5 on the list.
We actually watched the first couple episodes of that.
We have
I
so
know
far.
absolutely nothing about it, so I went into that, like, why is he all stretchy? That was my first question. Like,
I am
what the hell's
familiar
going
with
on?
One Piece, but I never really got into it. I mean, there are over 1,000 episodes at this point, so I'm too far behind to catch up. I'm still working my way through Naruto. I am on Naruto Shippuden.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
great. I'm not.
I haven't even gotten to Boruto yet.
That means
Don't
nothing
worry
to
about
me.
it. You don't have to. Don't spoil anything for me. I'm still working my way through. The Great Ninja War just started.
All right.
I'm actually surprised. I thought One Piece might do a little better, but just to see a live-action anime project on the list is comforting. Because this one's actually really well done compared to the
I have no idea
anime.
what it's supposed to be. I don't know if it compares to the anime. I've heard that
We're going to make you watch a couple episodes of that.
I've heard that the creator had some strict rules about adhering to the actual story. Mm-hmm. And so far I've enjoyed it, surprisingly. It's really enjoyable.
Well, when they just go ahead and embrace the wonkiness of the show, it works in its favor.
I certainly think this is something that should be wonky and not serious.
Well, you can just tell. And the way they're shooting it is very smart. It's very cinematically shot and stuff. It looks really good. It's really
all
well
around good, yeah. I've been surprised to be sure. Mm-hmm. But back to Ahsoka.
I think this
place
bodes
finish.
well that it's still holding high on the list. And like I said, I think it's going to go up in the next couple weeks.
I still look at, other than One Piece, I don't even know what any of those are. But then again, I don't really generally keep up with anything but the cool stuff, like sci-fi and fantasy. And
well, apparently a lot of people think Who is Aaron Carter is cool.
I guess. And if you're watching it and you like it, I'm sorry. I don't know what the heck it is. I tend to have a certain things I prefer. A type, yeah. Cool stuff.
Cool stuff. We're also going to talk a little bit about how Ahsoka is shot. Because we know that Dave Filoni loves the volume. They use the volume a lot. It did not work well for them in Kenobi.
I think it looked really bad in Kenobi.
Really bad. It made everything look very small.
Very cramped, yeah.
Very cramped. I don't get that same feeling in Ahsoka, even though I know they're using it again.
I don't. I think they're getting better with it. I've heard some people say that they still notice the volume and such, but I actually didn't think about it this past episode, which was surprising because usually I just kind of can't help but notice it.
There were obviously some clever ways to utilize it in this episode. The fight between Ahsoka and Balon was designed to be done in a small space because she's constantly trying to get to the map that's at the center of the ring, so you can't push out too far. You wouldn't expect them to be running all over the place when she has an object she needs to get.
Yeah.
So it's easy to use the volume there, and it wouldn't make anything look smaller because this should be a more contained fight.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So I think you're right. I think they're getting smarter on the when, where, when, how to use it.
Well, I think one of the biggest problems the volume has is getting lighting correct, especially like bright light, like when they're on like Tatooine, which, they never go to Tatooine in Disney plus Star Wars, but on the few times they've been there, you can really tell they're not out in the Tunisian desert like we were back in the day. The lighting just does not hit the same way that the real sunlight in the middle of a desert hits.
No, it does not.
I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm not trying to say, the show sucks because of that. It's just something you notice, and it's unfortunate, and I hope eventually one day it gets better. Because I do think it's a cool technology.
Well, and Dave Filoni has said, for his upcoming film, he has no fear of using the volume, but he will only use it if it fits.
Well, let's hope it doesn't fit, because I wouldn't miss it. After just saying that, I don't mind it.
But what's crazy is you don't even know how many studios are using the volume now.
I don't.
The volume has been used by more than just
Dave
Filoni, just Star Wars.
Are they using it on the Aaron Carter show? Maybe that's why it's number one. They're using it well.
Well, studios are just moving away from the traditional blue and green screens now that they have this. Thor Love and Thunder used the volume.
Well.
Warner Brothers' The Batman used the volume. I wouldn't even have known if I hadn't, done my homework.
Yeah, I've heard about Batman using the volume. That's maybe it's just when you go dark like that, it's really
going
hard to
into
tell.
those cramped small spaces that the Batman did, like going into those CD bars and stuff. Yeah, I can see the volume shining in small spaces and scenes like that. I just didn't know. We weren't at live, sets anymore.
Yeah. I think I remember hearing that Andor used the volume a couple times, but only like inside on Coruscant and the outside. Where there's always all the traffic and big buildings. That was always the volume. I could be wrong, but I thought I remember hearing that.
Well, when they specifically asked Dave if he was going to use it in future movies, he said, "That's a great question. If it applies, 100% I would. I'm fortunate to have been on the ground floor of that, and having experienced it with my team, I know when it works and when it doesn't work. There are certain situations where you absolutely want to use it, and there are certain situations where it's better to do it on a regular stage with a blue screen. There are certain situations where you just want to go outside.
Yes.
You have to just know and trust your team for when is the right time to use it. For me in animation, I like to do a lot of pre-visualization. I like to work out a lot of things virtually beforehand. I can watch a cut of the film before I've shot it. And I brought the director of photography into the process, so we look at it up front. Yeah, I would definitely say it's on the table, but I have no fear of doing it in other ways. I think it's a different tool that you have in the box to use at this point."
Yeah, as long as it's always used as a tool and not a crutch just to get it done, I guess, if that makes sense.
You'd almost think for him it'd just be easier to use the volume because he does come from an animation background where just having that drawn in is nice. So I'm glad that he says he's not afraid of going outside of that comfort zone and using real locations because that is something that is a concern.
Yeah, and I think for the actors, actually, I mean, obviously being on location with physical things there is good, but I've heard that the volume is better than, blue screen or green screen or whatever they might use, because you can actually see it.
I can imagine as an actor, yes, instead of going, now imagine you're in the middle of a city. You can turn your head and be like, oh, I'm on this street apparently, and I can see all these buildings in the background, and you kind of can immerse yourself better.
I mean, it's a fantastic technology. Mm-hmm. I just think it has wrinkles to smooth out yet.
I mean, it is nice, though. I mean, it does get them past the point of just having to rely on their imagination. Yeah. Think about it when you play D&D. There's imagining the entire thing in your head, no minis at all.
Yeah.
Then the dungeon master starts throwing down, there's the dry erase board, kind of pointing out where the landscape, where things are that you could use to your advantage, throwing the minis of the monsters on the board so you can see them, see their positions. These are all things that aid you. I mean, in the way technology is going, you can do some crazy stuff using the TV and making your own maps. So it's just a balance. You still need to have that imagination and knowing how to use what you've got. But it does help to have a visual source like that.
Well, yeah, I think some kind of visual aid, especially in D&D if you want to do combat. I think just something better. Theater of the mind is great, but have a board and some minis. It always makes it a little better.
The last thing I wanted to bring up is I've caught an interesting article online. There was a missing X-Wing model from the 1970s when George Lucas was making Star Wars. One of those ships just disappeared, one of his models. And it's turned up.
No ship that small has a cloaking device.
This one did. So apparently, back in the day, a VFX historian who was part of a team, they were cataloging the two-time Oscar nominee Greg Hines' collection. After he had passed away last year, they came across this missing, fabled model inside of a cardboard box. He said, "The model has not been displayed or modified since it left ILM. For those of us that grew up in the 70s or 80s, and those of us that work in the visual effects, this model is as significant a find as the ruby red slippers or the Maltese Falcon." Yeah, so it's the missing X-Wing is now going to be sold at Heritage Auction on October 14th to the 15th in Dallas.
It was so significant now we get to sell it.
It was.
It's so significant that we didn't make money off of it.
Well, the problem was that the people who found it, these VFX historians, I mean, they came across it in a box. So
I just
now
find
I
it
guess
funny.
like, well, let's share it with the world by selling it.
Like it's the greatest
Why
find
not
in
put it in
VFX
the
history, but we're going to sell it.
Why not put it in the Smithsonian? That's where the ruby red slippers really are.
Oh, well, put them right next to that. I think that'd be cool.
Right next to it.
I think it's fitting.
They're starting the bid for it at $400,000.
Oh, okay. A little bit out of my budget.
Mm-hmm. The wings are going to be in a tack position. It's made of resin, vacuum-formed styrene. I mean, this thing is a treasure trove of the ingenuity of back then, of this model that they made out of anything they could find.
Yeah.
What's an interesting part of the story is that Greg Hine never worked on Star Wars, so nobody knows how he got a hold of it. So the person who had it didn't work on Star Wars. They think maybe that overlapping teams working with Lucasfilm and Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind might have been how he got a hold of it. Overlapping
how do you just get a hold of that?
Well, he saw it sitting in a box somewhere, and he was like,
I'm going to take this.
X-Wing, I'll just take that home. Nobody knows.
That's what I'm going to tell the police next time I get caught for stealing. It just ended up with me.
They say that he was an active collector and trader, so sometimes he picked up items they think that he could have been trading for things down the line that he wanted for himself. And then he probably just stuck it in a box and forgot all about it.
Meant a lot to him.
But this auction's going to have a lot of really cool stuff. Not that most of us can afford any of this really cool stuff.
No.
I mean, there's an original screen-matched, complete Stormtrooper costume. That's pretty cool.
That's very cool, yeah.
They've got, an original phaser pistol from Star Trek. There's a Starfleet communicator from the original series from, the 1966, 1969
the first flip
era.
phone, yeah.
The original flip phone. So, there's some cool stuff. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, if you're wealthy, yeah.
If you're rich.
Yeah.
I would like the Batarang the for auction, but whatever, that's something else. Let's just wrap this up before I get really invested in looking at this collection.
Indeed. All right, well, that is going to be all we got for you this time, so now it's your turn to take to the comments below and tell us what you think of any and all of today's news, and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.